This is going to be an example of how your wounds and your trauma shows up in your parenting. Okay. I spent a good while living with a relative. She has several children, and she is so full of a lot of pain, wounds, trauma, especially from childhood. Suffers from a lot, abandonment issues, a lot of people pleasing going on. Needs a lot of therapy. Okay. For a while, she kind of leaned on me because I'm just naturally a therapist. It just is what it is. um, and for a while, she would, take into consideration, my perspectives, listen to what I had to say about mental health. But that only went so far. Because if you're not ready to really accept where you are, you're not really ready to accept your wounds, face your pain, and make changes, it only goes so far. Okay. The advice people give you, the input, it will only go so far because you're unwilling to just face the pain. You're unwilling to get help. Okay. So I lived with her for quite some time. Okay. Very grateful for her being that rock I needed in such a very challenging and transitional time in my life. Okay. Nonetheless, traumatic household. Okay. Traumatic household. Trauma after trauma after trauma. Me being the sensitive soul that I am, me being the mature and wise person that I am, me being a parent, me being an empath, absorbing all of that, I need to unpack my own experiences from living with her and the way she parents. Okay. So many situations to choose from, but one situation sticks out to me. It was more close to the time that I left. She has a son. Okay. He's almost 18. And it honestly slips me what he did that irritated her so badly. I forget what he did. But she definitely believes in that old school parenting of, that authoritative parenting. You do what the fuck I say. You're just a child. You are to be seen and not heard. You just do what you're told. You don't question authority. One of those types. Okay. And I don't know. It's crazy. I can't pinpoint exactly what he did. It was something that needed correcting. It definitely was. I believe it was something that needed to be addressed with him. Probably a conversation, something, probably a teachable moment for a 17-year-old boy. Okay. 17-year-old young man. Okay. Nonetheless, he and her got into it. Okay. It resulted in her kicking him out, her losing her shit as she always does. She has zero control, zero emotional control, zero control over her emotions. Okay. I mean, zero. It resulted in her kicking him out, calling him all types of names, and ultimately him bringing up so much that he's held on to over the years. And if I'm not mistaken, I've told her, I said, this boy is afraid of you, not physically afraid, but he is emotionally afraid of you. He doesn't trust you emotionally. I told her these things. Okay. I've given her a rundown of her and her children many a times. I even typed up something at one point when I first joined her and her family, because I know, she has the brain space of a gnat, ADHD as hell, probably some other undiagnosed shit going on. But nonetheless, I told her that boy's holding on to a lot. Okay. Anyhow, it came out. She had already, kicked him out. Days later, he's having a conversation with the father. He's barely been there. Okay. And he's texting with the father, and all this stuff that he's been feeling came up through him about how things she's said in the past. He's never voiced it. He's not one of those types who likes confrontation. He just learned how to fly under her radar. And I noticed this within weeks of living with them. I noticed this. Anyhow, so the moment that really sticks with me, aside from the whole situation was just fucked up. It was fucked up the way it was handled. It was fucked up the way she treated him. Whole situation was just fucked up. But the part that sticks out to me, the part that I want to fine tune into and show just how a wound shows up through your parenting. Before she kicked him out, before it hit the head, okay, before it got to the point where she kicked him out, he was trying to talk to his sister about his side of the story, about how he felt. He's in his sister's room trying to talk to her about, what he felt, okay? She hears this. Mom hears this. She comes into the sister's room and starts cursing him out, starts going off. And then she accuses the sister of being on his side. So in that moment, as she's going off, the son said something along the lines of, "You're being weird," or something like that. And I think that's what triggered her horribly. And she lost her shit. "Get the fuck out my house. Now you calling me weird." Some shit like that, right? But as this is going on, she goes to the daughter and goes in on the daughter. "How the fuck you not gonna tell your brother when he wrong? You need to," kind of going along that line. Okay, all kinds of stuff flying out her mouth about that. "You need to get on him when he wrong. You don't be in my house talking about me behind my back and blah, 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 blah." This is the part that fucked me up. She said, "You're either with me or against me." She's talking to a teenager of hers, the sibling of the son. These are two of your children, and you're telling the daughter, "You're either with me or against me." And she screamed it. "You're either with me or against me." That was a key moment to show her you have some serious, serious wounds of people not standing by you when you needed it most, and you just took it out on your daughter. That was highly inappropriate, and it was abusive to the daughter because she had every right, number one, to hear her brother out. Whether she agreed or disagreed, that wasn't for her mother to try to force on her or force out of her. You don't pit siblings against each other. That had nothing to do with the daughter. Again, whether she agreed with what the brother did or not, or whether she just wanted to stay neutral, mother said, "You either are with me or against me, and if you're against me, you can get the fuck out too." She said that a lot of times. She's done this so many times. She has told these children, if you agree with your siblings, when you know they're wrong, you can get the fuck out with them. This is how she's been parenting these children all their lives. Highly immature moment, okay? And it's been too many moments like this. And again, I really have to unpack. I don't know if I'm just going to write about it. I don't know, because I'm very artistic. Sometimes I might write a book. Sometimes I might just journal. Who knows? But I know being in that kind of a household, that volatile household, that household of you never know what the parent's going to do. You never know what mood they're going to be in. You basically just kind of tiptoe around just to not set off the major. But that sticks with me so badly because she went to that daughter and said, "You are either with me or against me." And I'm like, what the hell? You are talking to your child, not an adult, first of all. You're talking to your child about a situation that happened with her brother. It wasn't something detrimental. It's not like he went in unalive somebody or, he assaulted somebody. It wasn't something to that degree to where she said, "You're either with me or against me." And as the therapist I am, as the self-proclaimed therapist that I am, I know this relative of mine has a long history of not feeling supported, of not having people in her corner. For her to say, "You're either with me or against me," to your child, a child who does not have enough life experience to understand, a child who should not have been put in that adult situation in that moment of having to choose between her brother and her mother at her age. It was highly inappropriate and abusive. That is a prime example of how your wounds will show up in parenting.